this is Teddy, and you're listening to Desiree Tims in Ohio on Two Broads Talking Politics, part of the Demcast Podcast Network.
Are you listening?
Hey everyone, this is Kelly with Two Broads Talking Politics, part of the Demcast family of podcasts, and I am on today with Desiree Tims, who is running for Congress in the Ohio 10th District. Hi, Desiree.
Hello.
So I am super excited to talk to you, and we're going to talk about this video in a little bit, but let's start with some background. Tell me a little bit about yourself and why you're running for Congress.
Yeah, so again, my name is Desiree Tims. I'm running for Ohio's 10th District, which is primarily Dayton, Ohio. So it's urban, suburban, and some rural. I was born and raised in the city of Dayton, went to inner city schools. When I graduated from high school, George Bush was still president, and gas prices were going up, and my friends and I couldn't afford to put the gas back in the car after skating. That was sort of my first something's wrong with your gas prices are spiking. So I went to college down in Cincinnati at Xavier University, and during that time, then Senator Barack Obama was running for president, and he came to campus and he talked a lot about hope and change, and there was a rally. And so I jumped on the campaign in 2007 and 2008, and I knocked doors for President Obama in Southwest Ohio and Cincinnati and Dayton. And it worked, right? We knocked doors and he became the president, and I was convinced this is how you make progress and change our country. So I graduated during the recession, and in Ohio and in the Midwest, that was really a very hard time for us because people were graduating from college with hundreds of thousands of dollars in student loan debt, me, for example, and about job prospects and where we were going to go. And in my town, General Motors and mom and pops were thriving until the recession hit. So I did get a job after college graduation. And then 4 months later, I was laid off like much of America. During that time, I was frantic and I applied for so many jobs, didn't receive a job offer, but was re-offered the job I had in Cincinnati, relocated me to Alexandria, Virginia. And when I got there, I received a call from the White House. I applied for a White House internship during the panic of what is being laid off. And I was offered the position and I accepted. And that's how I got into federal policy and politics and learned all I could when I got into the White House because I literally knew no one when I got there. Barack, Michelle, Sasha, Malia, and that was from TV. So, that's all I knew. But I was willing to learn as much as I could because the people back home in my community were suffering. Not only were gas prices high, jobs were not plentiful, they were gone. My friends, their parents' homes were getting foreclosed. I saw cars get repossessed because people lost their jobs. They lost hope. Grocery stores closed. And so we had all of this hardship that occurred, and someone needed to do something about it. So I spent time in the White House. I accepted different positions there and worked all around and learned as much as I could. And then a man with a raspy voice talking about Ohio jobs and manufacturing named Sherrod Brown appeared on the TV. And I was like, I want to go work for him next. He's my home state senator. And so I dropped my resume out 5 times to his office and started at the bottom and worked my way up and spent time there. And then I went to work for Gillibrand of New York, and then also decided to traumatize myself through 4 years of law school at Georgetown. So after finishing law school, I reached this point of, okay, what am I going to do now? Am I going to continue my role in nonprofit life and public service in D.C., or am I going to go home and do the same thing or go to a law firm? And so it's 2020, and people in my community, guess what? The homes are still boarded up. They have new cars, but they're older car models. People still don't make what they used to make in the 90s. I live in a food desert. I'm back home. I live in a food desert. I have to drive 20 minutes or 30 minutes to get to a Whole Foods or a Trader Joe's, and 20 to 30 minutes to get to a Kroger. So these are issues that I thought I worked on, and we were fixing them, and now they're back. Mm-hmm. And the man in the White House, the current occupant, I don't think that he is serving the very people who need to be served. And the man I'm running against for Congress also doesn't serve the people who need to be served. And he's been in elected office for 25 years. So it's time for change. And instead of staying on the sidelines, I decided to get in the game. So I'm running for Congress to help bring back some hope and some values and restore what it is to be able to achieve the American dream.
I love that. So let's talk some about this district, the Ohio 10th. People who listen to this podcast a lot will know that I have railed against Ohio gerrymandering before. Mm-hmm. Somehow, despite Ohio being, a roughly 50-50 kind of state. I mean, they've got one Democratic senator, but in how many 16 congressional districts, only 4 of them are currently held by Democrats. So it seems like, this district is pretty interesting. You mentioned it's got Dayton, it's got suburbs, it's got some diversity. So talk to me about this district and what you think the key is to winning it. Last time in 2018, Teresa Gasper ran. We talked to her on the podcast, and, she was able to move it 10 points or so from where it had been previously, but still wasn't enough to sort of overcome the difference and win the district. So tell me some about the district and what you think the key is to you winning in 2020.
Yeah, so Teresa did crack the ceiling, and I'm trying to finish the job and shatter it, right? So the district is R+4. It's primarily urban, suburban, and some rural. We have 5 colleges and universities. And the city of Dayton is roughly 141,000 people. 44%, they're African American. 2 of the 5 colleges and universities, HBCUs. I'm the first African American endorsed by the party for the seat. So we know that this is going to be historic, but one of the paths to victory includes turning out African American voters and turning out young voters. I'm also the youngest person endorsed by the party ever for this seat. And so we need to make sure that we reach young people, and we need to make sure that we're reaching African Americans who sort of have felt not included, turned off from the process. And that was part of the reason, I made the song, which I know we'll get into. So when I moved back home after I graduated on Sunday, I packed up my apartment on Monday. I was back in Ohio on Tuesday. That Friday or Saturday, the Ku Klux Klan marched downtown Dayton. 3 days after that, we had 15 tornadoes rip through our community. And then 2 months after that, we had a mass shooting in the Oregon district the day after El Paso. So what we know is that, okay, some people, if they were asleep before, they're awake. They're paying attention. Because, okay, we have men in white hoodies walking down the street with rifles. And then we have 15 tornadoes, and people can't get the assistance they need from FEMA. They can't get the assistance they need from the insurance companies. And, we never received the full funding because my opponent, he voted against disaster relief funding 3 days before the tornadoes hit. And so imagine if we had members of Congress and people who actually work to ensure that when disaster strikes, people can get the help that they need and not, it happened, now what do we do? We have to be proactive and not reactive. And then the mass shooting certainly opened a lot of folks' eyes up because my opponent has an A rating with the NRA. So people who stayed home in 16, people who were tuned out in 18, those people are paying attention. But younger people, they came out for the rally, like to protest the Klan, and they helped clean up with the tornadoes, and it was a big community effort. And the mass shooting was very eye-opening and shocking because it was in our backyard. But some people still didn't understand why they need to vote. So I decided to make this song. I wanted a schoolhouse rap sort of theme to reach people, to talk about Congress and judges. And that's really how it went about. When I talked to my cousin and approached him about it, he too had the same, really, what does this mean? Does my vote really count? He thought those very same things. And so I said, well, I'm going to teach you everything I know until you can teach it back to me.
I love it.
And then we'll write the song. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's an amazing video too. So the song is great, and the video is great, and it's such a powerful message. And of course, a lot of really important and powerful people have been taking notice of it on social media. So for people who haven't seen the video, and of course their number one homework assignment is that they should go and watch this video. It's called My Vote Don't Count, and we'll put we'll embed the video on our website too, so people can find it. But talk us through a little bit about the kind, you just sort of said why you wanted to make it, but what are you trying to convey to people in the song, and your cousin YelloPain? And so, what are the two of you trying to really to portray?
Yeah. So one of the things I heard when I knocked, particularly in African American communities, when we talk to voters and we knock on doors and we have these sort of meetups, they say, well, we had 8 years of Barack Obama and my life didn't change. And so in addition to telling them, well, it's probably not true, let me share the list of policies and laws that were created and enacted that, would have gone further, but for a rebellious Congress, they still don't get it. And so I always say, well, yes, you voted in 2008, but did you come back out in 2010? Even older voters, younger voters, people who just came out because they were excited, white voters, rural voters, they all say the same thing. Well, the Democrats had the White House for 8 years. And I said, but the House, but the Senate. Mm-hmm. And really conveying that was, sometimes it was wonky and sometimes it was great. And so the chart you see in the video, I created that chart for a lot of people. And they said, well, you need to post this chart on your Facebook. And so I said, well, if we could use the chart for the video, maybe that would be helpful. But the chart came from how I was explaining it to people just sitting down at kitchen tables and coffee shops. This is how it matters. But I thought a song would be more creative to sort of reach them.
So, obviously the reaction on social media has been quite positive. I know people who just love the song. Do you think it's reaching the people that you're trying to reach to, the people who haven't been voting, who maybe did vote in 2008 but stayed home in 2010? Are they getting that message now, and do you think they're excited to come out and vote?
Yeah, they're definitely receiving the message. We've received, so we were trying to target people in the district. I literally just wanted the song to reach all the college campuses and people in our community who sort of followed me and followed him, who would understand this lesson in a more creative way. And I was like, he's a perfect artist for it. And I know it would be a great collaboration. Did not expect Stacey Abrams to reshare it, and Chelsea Clinton. And so obviously these were very exciting moments for us. But the really cool thing is receiving the messages like, hey, I checked my voter registration because of you. Or, hey, I did not know this. I'm definitely voting. I was going to sit out because I'm not excited about the presidential candidate. Or, I didn't know this was such an important part. Oh, I didn't know that's why President Obama didn't get more accomplished. And so that to me is really exciting and really valuable. And it makes it all worth it because, we spent months working on this. And so when people say I'm voting because of you, and we have children who understand it, and they understand why it's important to vote, it's easier to reach those 18-year-olds through a song. And then I wanted to add the initial piece to it because, one of my former jobs, program at League of Conservation Voters. And through that program and through the organization, we really focused on the judicial branch and judicial nominees. But also, people don't know state judges and municipal court judges. And so when we talk about courts and fair courts and judges matter, when we talk about this, a lot of people don't realize some of those judges, for example, in Ohio, the Supreme Court, you vote for those judges. They're not just nominated. They're voted in. And so when you sit home or you skip the box and then something happens and you go before that judge, why should they have your back? Or you don't know what sort of background they come from because you didn't vote. You didn't participate in the process. And so they're going to exclude you from it every chance that they get. So we wanted to make sure that we hit the three branches of government in a more creative way that did not just focus on the executive.
Yeah. No, I mean, civics lesson via music. I love it. So, I think there's a lot of talk in the Democratic Party right now, partly because of, this super long presidential primary process that goes on and on and on forever, about are we a progressive party? Are we a centrist party? Are we how do we present ourselves? And looking at your website and the types of issues that you're talking about, it seems like the approach you're taking is, not like I'm this far this way or this far this way. It's these are the issues that matter, and here's fixes that we can have for them. And do you think that is what resonates with voters, with people as you're talking to them?
Yeah, I think we all want the gold standard, the platinum standard, right? We want to wave our hands, and we want all these things to happen and to happen fast. One of my favorite people in the world and favorite quote that I didn't quite understand at the time, but the more I grow and the more I go, I understand Mrs. Michelle Obama. The only thing that happens in an instant is devastation. It takes time. And that is so true for our policies. We cannot create change overnight, and we certainly can't ensure that a lot of the platinum standard things that we want will just get ushered through Congress really fast, especially when we still don't have the Senate and we definitely don't have the courts. So it's so important to make change and to be progressive with our approach. And so maybe we may get the gold standard, but the silver standard now until we create a pathway to that gold standard. And some things we'll be able to get through with the gold standard, but we have to work together and we have to make sure that it's something for everybody. And so that's what I'm hearing from voters when I knock doors and when we have these meetings. I ask them, what is your position? What do you care about? It's not about when presidential candidates, when I get the 3 a.m. phone call, what keeps me up late at night. It's about what as that mom who's getting 2 daughters, or the black woman who's pregnant, and we know that maternal health care is horrible for African Americans. As we talk to these people, what keeps you up at 3 a.m. at night? For the dad who's working 3 jobs, who's being told the economy is great. For who? What keeps that person up at night? And so we have to make sure that we're talking to everybody as we work to create change and policies, and not just the woke people or the people who are so engaged, because we miss the bulk of people who feel like their voices aren't being heard, or the people who are just flat out misinformed about some of the progressive policies that we support and that we have. And so this is sort of the sandwich method as we usher through until we get to the big feast.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've heard Sherrod Brown speak in person, and I remember thinking as he was talking, like, well, gosh, when you talk about issues this way, it feels like everyone's a progressive.
Yeah, everyone is a progressive. I've read his book Desk 88, and I've had the luxury of going to that desk and pulling out the drawer and looking at those names etched into the wood and hear more about their stories. But our country, our story, and the beauty of the American dream is progress. And so anytime we're moving forward, that's progress. And to take that away from anybody or any era, any group, you eliminate the beauty in what is history.
Yeah. Well, so by now, hopefully, all of our listeners are convinced you can do it. You're gonna flip the Ohio 10th. So
Yeah, we're gonna flip it.
yeah. So, what are some ways that they can help out with your campaign?
Name ID helps. So add me on Twitter, retweet, and share our campaign. Money, we need money. I would be remiss if I did not say we need money. Campaigns are really expensive. As a former congressional staffer, I did not appreciate this side of things as much because I was such a policy walking into the policy and getting the bills on the floor and finding a Republican who would be willing and bold enough to join us. This is completely different. So my website is timsforcongress.com. You can click that button and donate. You can also sign up to volunteer. We have remote phone banks. We have postcard parties. All of those things to reach people to ensure that we flip this seat is certainly helpful. The main county with the most people, the most populous county in the district is Montgomery County. That's an Obama-Trump pivot county. Obama won it twice. Trump won it in 2016 by 1 point. So we know this isn't, Ohio's not a red state. I know you talked a lot about Sherrod and how he talked about the balance of the state. We're not a red state. We're definitely a battleground state. We're a purple state. We have so many across the state. People just need to be activated to come out and vote again. And the beauty is that when we activate them, they do show up and they do come out and they do vote. So this is a turnout race. It's an R+4. Sherrod Brown from this district in 2018. And Desiree Tims is going to win it in 2020.
I love it. Is there anything else that you want to make sure we talk about?
I think ending gun violence is just so key and critical to our future. And I would be remiss if I did not say I'm so inspired by the moms from Moms Demand and the families who get involved and take action after losing a loved one. I attended some of the funerals from the victims from the Oregon mass shooting, and it's simply heartbreaking. I don't think we've desensitized gun violence in America. When I was in high school, we didn't have the rallies and the emergency preparedness for gun violence or mass shooter. We didn't have any of those drills, but I did lose a high school classmate to gun violence. It did not trigger me until after the mass shooting happened in the Oregon district. But when I was in high school, it was a team party. I was in a ditch. Someone had guns. Someone had a gun and started shooting. I jumped into a ditch so I could get shot. But I had a classmate who was an innocent bystander, and he was shot and killed. And we went to his funeral in high school, and that memory, I can see it just as clear as day. But still, I did not associate that with gun violence. Me sort of being in the middle of that until the mass shooting. And so I said, wow, how many people are still walking around today dealing with trauma that we're not addressing as a country. And so we have so much progress to make, so much work to do. And I know that when I see activists on the ground and I see these moms and these dads and these family members get involved and get engaged and stand up in the face of trauma and heartbreak and pain, and they're moving forward, they inspire me every single day. And so I just try to honor them as much as I possibly can because they're bold and they're courageous, and I'm really proud to know many of them and to see them in action.
Yeah. Well, Desiree, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, and thank you for stepping up and running. I always want all Ohio districts to flip.
Yay!
This definitely looks like one we could get. So I'm super excited about that, and I hope we'll stay in touch. Tell us when the primary is in Ohio.
The March primary is March 17, 2020. So we are just weeks away, and we would love for you all to amplify our voice and ensure that we get over the finish line to take on the Republicans.
All right. Excellent. Well, thank you, Desiree.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Two Broads Talking Politics, part of the Dimcast Podcast Network. Our theme song is called Are You Listening off of the album Elephant Shaped Trees by the band Immunuri, and we're using it with permission of the band. Our logo and other original artwork is by Matthew Weflin and was created for use by this podcast. You can contact us at twobroadstalkingpolitics@gmail.com or on Twitter or Facebook at twobroadstalk. You can find all of our episodes at twobroadstalkingpolitics.com or anywhere podcasts are found.